All right, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster here on this finally Friday, March, what is it? March 10th, it looks like, 2023. About 11 a.m. here on the West Coast in California. And latest activity shows some movement over around the Turkey area. Also up into the Alaska region. Looks like a 3.3 coming into the area around these volcanoes. Let's go ahead and check it out, see what's going on here. Across the Aleutian Trench, there is that 3.4. Looks like it just got upgraded to 3.4 in the cluster of earthquake activity here at the specific, well, there's a couple different volcanoes here. The Tanaga volcano and the other one that just sits to the east down here. We've been seeing quite a bit of swarming kicking up here over the last couple days. I want to show you guys the or at least the 7 days all magnitudes for this area. That's quite the impressive earthquake swarm going on here at this volcano. It looks like it is mostly confined here around the Tanaga volcano. This volcano last erupted back in 1914 with a little bit of seismic activity back in 2000. I think it was 2012 or so. A little bit of seismic unrest, but the last official eruption, 1914. It looks as though it's about ready to erupt this year. The latest informational statement here from the USGS HANDS network shows the both volcanoes here, the Tanaga and the Takawanga volcano, sitting at the orange level. So the first one here, this was put out yesterday. This is actually the latest update that was put out from these guys in regards to the ongoing situation there at the Tanaga volcano. It remains elevated. No eruptive activity or signs of unrest have been detected in satellite or other monitoring data, but this could change basically in a blink of an eye, and there's still a little uncertainty as to which specific volcano this may come from. Even mentioned here in the wording by the USGS. It is uncertain at this stage if it would come from the Tanaga or the Takawanga volcano. And again, these are both really close together, kind of on the same island out here. But as you see, most of the activity looks like it's confined around this region here of the Tanaga volcano. Here's the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Still showing that swarm pretty much positioned right underneath the southeastern flank here of that volcano. The depth of these earthquakes all consistent with magma movement, although a lot of them are getting much shallower, which could indicate the swelling or the tilt, so to speak, that magma creates before it comes up out of the surface. A lot of these earthquakes very shallow at a negative depth. So all over the place in terms of the depth of these earthquakes. We'll continue to watch this and, of course, report back on it if anything does change. But goodness, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. I do have a station right there monitoring the earthquake activity. It's going to be the top station right here, the Aleutian Islands, Alaska station for any earthquake activity. All right, what's going on out here in Colorado? Colorado's seen a pretty good uptick in earthquake activity overnight and this morning. Looks like it all started off last night about 10 o'clock or so for a 4.3 earthquake, 6.3 kilometers deep. That was followed up by a little swarming of earthquake activity, also some building up around the San Juan mountain range over here. Now, I've covered some activity out here before, but we haven't really had this much movement kicking up here. What do you think's going on out here? You guys want to take a guess? I probably already gave that away when I mentioned that. So from the view here, it looks like just some mountains out here. Maybe if you're flying over, you may not notice it, but upon zooming in, you guys see those little speckled dots out here? Let's zoom in a little bit further. Are those maybe some campsites? Some beautiful country campsites out here where families can enjoy their weekend away from the city? No, those are oil pumping operations, older ones it looks like. And there's a bunch of them where all this earthquake activity struck. It looks like the majority of these are no longer in in operation. There's one that looks like it may have a little wastewater pond. Oh yeah, perfect timing. I knew it. So yeah, it's let me see here. I'd have to pull up Google Earth to get a little bit better view of this activity, but to me it looks like these are some old pumping operations out here that are no longer utilized. It's in the field of them, and there's hundreds of them out here. You know, you kind of think these may be campsites or whatnot, but I definitely don't believe that. New Mexico, this portion of Colorado, there's a wastewater injection pond out here. You can barely see it. But this area of the states get a lot of fracking and pumping operations out here, all throughout New Mexico and western Texas as well. And this is where all that earthquake activity stirred up last night and this morning. And that's an obvious sign here of quite a bit of pressure up against the North American Craton region. We did see some further activity over here near the Silverton, Colorado area. Now, these could be related to just specific faults out here. I was looking out here, seeing if I can see any, maybe some type of operations out here, but most of the time we don't normally see it up here in these high elevation regions. So I believe these are, well, that kind of looks like maybe some mining operation out there. Either way, it appears as though some of the areas of the weak crustal areas around the North American plate are getting hit out here right up against the North American Craton, which is a stable region of the North American plate. It sits roughly about the Central Plains northward into Canada. That's why it's all flat. You got all this deformation and building up around it. You can kind of see the outline of it here with the Appalachian Mountains and up against the Rocky Mountains here. But this area in the center portion of the country, north, is land that's been relatively stable for supposedly millions of years. And we just don't see too much earthquake activity out there. But when we do, that's a sign of some of these weaker regions here under pressure, such as the oil fields out here in the southern Colorado area, and also out here in Texas over the last week or so. This has just been an ongoing thing out here in Texas for quite a while, but they also have quite a bit of these ponds, these wastewater injection disposal ponds, and they're all over the place here in Texas. But yeah, I'm going to have to dig around a little bit more and see what specifically what this area is. I'm not really seeing anything far as names go within this area, but looking at this, this definitely looks like some type of operational activity. It doesn't look like a campsite. So we can't really tell on some of these pictures, but either way, that's what's going on out there in the Texas region. So with that being said, need to watch the West Coast area. This has me a little bit concerned because West Coast really hasn't been moving all that much. But with this obvious sign here of inland pressure within the North American plate, that tells me that we know things are built up out here. They're strained, but it could be even more so. We should start to see some earthquake activity popping up. It's been relatively quiet. We haven't had anything above 4.5 out here in California in a little while. 30 days of activity here, nothing above 4.5 along the West Coast, and 7 days 2.5 and above is a little spotty at best here across California. It's been fairly quiet, but don't let that quietness fool you. So we'll keep an eye on the West Coast with this general movement here showing up inland against the North American Craton. Keep an eye on that area of California. Let's see what we've got. Another earthquake up here into the Alaska region. Look at that, another 2.4. Yeah, man, I think it's just a matter of time. That may even happen today as far as the eruption goes with that volcano. Definitely keep a close eye on it. The rest of Alaska, typical movement up there throughout the region. All right, let me go back here to the States and see if we got anything far as unusual activity going here in the Southern Cal area. Little swarming off the San Jacinto fault zone. This area has shown a little bit of movement, but again, this is all microquake activity. Looks like we did have one 2.6 last night in the mix there, but most of it below 2.5. Rest of California all quiet, aside from the Clear Lake volcanic field, and that's another induced earthquake process out here with the ongoing hydrothermal plants out here. This is not wastewater disposal, but if you think about it, it's similar because they're taking human waste, that's right, sewage, and they're injecting it below to create steam and energy into the heated surface below. There's numerous plants that run out here, and there's a whole process involved here that powers many homes throughout the Bay Area. But it also, at the same time, is slightly disgusting, and it creates earthquakes at the same time there. Goodness. Humans and their ideas. I mean, they pretty smart, though, if you really think about it. Definitely. All right, eastern portion of the country, quiet. Puerto Rico region looks a little bit absent of earthquake activity today, aside from a few of them. The South America area, folks, I'm starting to feel a little bit better today, but not much. Still got a slight fever going on, so excuse me if I seem a little on the offside, but we did have some activity here overnight. Some deeper movement quakes into the Peru-Chile Trench on a large scale map, so to speak. We had, well, 5.4, the latest one, just after midnight, looks like 159 kilometers deep and 161 kilometers deep for that 5.0 in Peru yesterday. So things are, looks like they're getting ready to move here along the South America region. We did see a little bit of adjustment downstream here onto the Peru-Chile Trench at the surface levels, some 2s and 3s, but also at the same time further movement up north of this deeper activity region along the Middle America Trench. And that's been kind of a hotspot area in terms of earthquake movement here over the last week. All a sign, obviously all of a sign if you count for all of this movement here up into the Colorado area, as well as that pressure gradient up and down the eastern Pacific plate and adjacent plates here. It's obviously noticeable. But California, like I say, I don't know if it's fused together. Maybe there's no longer a plate boundary out here. Maybe it's just new land and a new plate boundary will open up. I doubt it. But it's just a matter of time before the Southern California area sees some movement. All right, let's see what we got here for the Western Pacific over here. 4.5 into the Curl-Kamchatka Trench. That's another area that's been building up strain. But this region here is just right smack dab in a major subduction area. This region right here, the two arrows pointing up, being backed by the... well, we've got the Eurasia plate and the North American plate kind of slamming this area, and also the Pacific plate. So this region right here is one of the most accumulated areas of slip and strain that there is here on the on any subduction zone, and it just hasn't shown any sufficient movement in a while. So it's got me a little concerned that we could be looking at potentially a mega quake in that area due to the high slip rate with only minimal adjustment. We've seen deeper earthquake activity here over the past few months, in the past year or so, into the sea areas, the deeper movement regions, but only minimal activity upstream where we expect the the bigger quakes to accumulate that strain and release. But overnight, 4.5, actually that this morning it looks like 7 o'clock or so, 69 kilometers deep. One earthquake into the Izu Trench, pretty deep, 464 kilometers deep here into this area of the trench, another subduction zone level. We'll watch these regions here for some potentially upstream, shallower earthquake movement. Right now, not really seeing too much activity upstream here, even on the EMSC model. Let's see, Java Trench regions, mostly 2s and 3s today, a little bit quieter over there. Getting some return deep movement into the Fiji area. Looks like that's ramping up pretty good. Couple earthquakes there. Actually, all four of these, goodness, are below 400 kilometers deep. The deepest one, that 4.8, at 563 kilometers. No adjustment upstream yet, but I would suppose that we're going to see some adjustment here soon within this area, and that does include the Kermadec Trench and possibly New Zealand. I did see a 3.1, it looks like. Pretty shallow earthquake movement just off the coast of the North Island area. Let me give a quick glance here at the GeoNet servers while I'm down here in this area. And let's see here, all magnitudes. Mostly some small microquakes here over the last couple hours. There's a 2.5. Just on the coast here, North Island. That's pretty deep though, 180 kilometers. Aside from that, mostly smaller quakes. 3 hours ago, there's that 3.1, 33 kilometers deep. So things aren't really too active yet down here into the New Zealand area, but we'll continue to watch that region as well. A look at the volcanic drums shows some of that minor earthquake activity. Looks like it is mostly around the Taupo super volcano. A couple earthquakes showing up here. No major swarms. Nothing to really write home about there as far as that activity goes. All right, goodness, hopefully I can keep my voice here. Further to the west, Afghanistan area. That's from yesterday, it looks like. Pretty deep movement quake out here. So what do we got today in this area? Nothing showing up far as 4.0 and above goes, but look at the EMSC model here. It shows we got 2.7 coming in as we speak. Mostly 2s and 3s out here across the Mediterranean. No major movement quakes right now kicking up in that area. The Atlantic Ocean fairly quiet. One earthquake yesterday, and it looks like maybe we had another one this morning here in the Iceland area. Let's see here. Hawaii out there in the middle of the Pacific. Doesn't look like we're seeing too much activity. It's always a good sign, though, to keep an eye on Hawaii for any unusual activity. Kilauea Volcano showing some movement around the crater today. Nothing major. These are all relatively shallow earthquakes there at the Kilauea Volcano. I think the big story right now, though, is keeping an eye up here around this little island with an active volcano here, potentially soon. If not by the end of this day, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. All right, what else we got here, folks? Space weather activity from the Solar Ham site. Looking like they're raising a little fundraiser out here. I've donated to these folks before. I guess I'll do that again. Looks like they're maybe having some issues keeping up with the site. I don't know. I do utilize this site a lot, so I appreciate it. And anything I do appreciate, I tend to give back. So we'll take care of that here in a little bit. But space weather activity looks fairly calm for now. They have lowered the threat level out here as expected because the sunspot regions right now are not super active. There's numerous sunspots, but they're not all that complex in the structure of their magnetic polarities out here. It looks fairly calm. There's a lot of sunspots, but again, none of these really pose any threat for any flaring major at all either. So keep an eye on that. Let's see what else we have. No major solar storms, no major coronal holes. We got a little bitty tiny coronal hole, not even numbered yet. Earth facing here soon, but I don't think that's going to be anything to worry about. So therefore, no major aurora events in the forecast. Things look fairly calm, and the threat level there for the auroras are pretty much non-existent. All right, weather activity here real quick, folks, along the west coast. I know we got quite a bit of rain coming in here. Right now, most of the activity is south of me into the San Joaquin Valley, Southern Cal, Mammoth Mountain area. Goodness, there's a lot of snow up there, and they'll probably continue to get snow. But they've got snow below the Mammoth Mountain level, and all that's going to be melting, creating potentially historic flooding out there in Southern California. Again, I picked up about almost an inch and a half here at my place, just outside of Chico, yesterday and overnight. So we got a little break going on this afternoon before more rain coming in. It looks like on Saturday and Sunday. These are going to be warmer systems, and there's a pretty good storm coming in. Looks like on Tuesday morning sometime, dropping some impressive rainfall rates with heavy-duty rain on top of the snowpack. So that could lead to some further flooding out here in Northern California. A lot of runoff going to be happening as that warmer system pushes its way through the West Coast. And as I mentioned last night, this is pretty much just a pattern that we're going to be looking into of storm systems. Although it looks like it's backed off a little bit towards the end of March. Still, that's a long ways out. But looking at this, goodness, no sign of spring there into the Four Corners area. Colorado looks like it's going to be getting some snow and low temperatures down into the Southern Plains area again. So it's been quite a winter. Definitely one for the record book, so to speak, out here. All right, folks, have a good one. Again, just kind of keep an eye on a couple different areas out here. Kind of watching that. I'm going to be watching that one all day today. So, of course, if anything changes, we will keep you guys updated and provide updates on that volcano up there. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on. Take care. Enjoy your Friday. Have a good one.